Hello, welcome to Wise Networking. Today I'm going to do an example of a video in Packet Tracer where we have three kind of separate networks, three large networks. Each network is going to have multiple VLANs in it as if it were some type of company or an office, and we separate the VLANs, the virtual LAN area networks, into like departments of a company. And so, as you know, like a VLAN, all devices on its own VLAN can communicate with each other just via the switch, where there's no routing involved. But we are going to make this work with Inter-VLAN routing. So even though like three different VLANs, as you can see here on network one, right here, we'll do some Inter-VLAN routing so that way this department could talk to the department on VLAN 20 or the department on VLAN 10. And then we're also going to use like an OSPF dynamic routing to connect these VLANs to the VLANs out here on a outside network in a different area of the building that's on a totally different layer 3 switch. So we'll be able to route between these VLANs, and we'll also be able to route between any of these hosts on these VLANs on the other networks. So what we have here in the first network, we have these three VLANs. We have a VLAN 10, 20, and 30. And I already gave them IP addresses here, like a 192.168.10.0/24, and this is a .20, .30. Like over here, we got a .40, .50, and a .60 down here. And this whole area would be network .100.0, this one .101.0, and this is 102.0. So I already have all these end devices configured where I gave them their IP addresses, and the default gateway is already there set up what we're going to use for that like 20.0 network. So that's all there. So what we're going to do here is we're basically going to go into this layer 3 switch, and create these VLANs. Create the VLANs here on the switch and assign these interfaces to which VLAN it's going to. So we'll start with that first. So we can go into the switch here. Try to move this out of the way a little bit. Put this over here. Okay. So we'll go into this switch. This is switch 1, so we'll configure terminal. We'll change this host name on the switch just so it matches what I have hidden here, switch 1. Okay. So in the configure terminal, what we're going to do first, we're going to create the VLANs. And by doing that, this is pretty simple. Just basically we're going to name the first we're going to do what we want, a VLAN 10. And now it'll switch into this configuration VLAN. So we're going to name this VLAN. Let's see, did I name these departments? We'll just call this department sales, and then we're going to exit out of there to go back one step to the global configuration, and then we'll create VLAN 20, and then we'll name that one, let's go with marketing. Exit out of there. Oop. Sorry, can't spell. Exit. We go back, so then we'll do a VLAN 30. And we'll name that one estimating. So it's an estimating department there. Okay, so basically what we did there is we created, on this switch, we created VLAN 1, 2, or VLAN 10, 20, and 30, and named these sales departments. And to look at that, we can go here and just say show VLAN, and you'll see 10, 20, and 30 created. There's the name sales, marketing, estimating, all right there. So next what we got to do is we're going to configure this switch. So this VLAN 10 is for ports, the Fast Ethernet 01 and Fast Ethernet 02. VLAN 20 would be for interface 3 and 4, and 30 would be for 5 and 6. So to do that, we can come in here. Let's go to let's configure terminal to get to the global, and then we'll go into an interface mode. So if we want the interface Fast Ethernet, let's say 01. So then we go into the interface, configure interface mode. And what we're going to do here to configure that for a VLAN, we are going to say, because this is a switch port, so switch port mode access. Then we'll go switch port access VLAN 10. Okay, so that so the Fast Ethernet 01 interface is now configured to VLAN 10. We're also going to do it for this interface for this other device. So let's exit, go back one step, and then we'll go to interface Fast Ethernet 0, 2. So we're in there, and then we'll go back, we'll do switch port mode access switch port access VLAN 10. Alright, so we're going to end that real quick. So I'm just going to show you what we did here. By doing this show VLAN again, now you can see this VLAN 10 that I created right here for sales. It does say active like it was, but now we have the Fast Ethernet 1 and 2 interfaces connected to that. So we'll go through and do the other ones. Configure terminal, and we will we'll go to interface mode, or configure interface, and we will do 02, and we're going to use the same command every time to get to these interfaces. So it's switch port mode access, and then switch port switch port access. Now this is going to be, we did VLAN 10, right? Yeah, this will be VLAN 20. I'm in the wrong. Hang on. I did not want O2. We already have O2. We already have O2 set. Let's go back. Exit. Yeah, 1 and 2 are already set. Sorry. Interface Fast Ethernet 3. Switch port mode access switch port access VLAN 20, and then we'll exit. I'm going to hit the up arrow to look at some of my past commands. So we can go into this, we'll go into 4, and then we'll do a switchport mode access, switchport access VLAN 20. Alright, I'm just going to do this again just so I can see. And you can see the sales, we got 1 and 2, and then for VLAN 20 here we have 3 and 4. Alright, so now we'll do the VLAN 30. Now there is a way to do a range. If you have a ton of devices where you don't want to go through and do every one, you should be able to pick a range of interfaces. I'm going to go ahead and try that real quick and see if I can get that right. So we got configure terminal. Now let's go interface range. The fast Ethernet, let's go 0, 5 through 6. And see there it went to the range, so it should do number 5 and 6 at the same time. Now that this right here is interface configuration range, so let's go with, so now we'll do the switch port mode access, and we'll do switch port access VLAN 30. Let's go to end. Let's go show VLAN. And yeah, it did them both. So now the VLAN 30 has for interface 5 and 6. Right there. Okay, so that one's good. Now we should be able to create a default gateway on this one here. For each one of these VLANs. So for like this one, you would have the 192.168.30.1, 192.168.20.1. So it knows the gateway it's looking for. So let's go in here. Go back to configure terminal. And then we're going to go to interface. We're going to look for interface VLAN 10. And when I did that, it brought it up. It brought that interface up. So now we'll do an IP address. This is for VLAN 10, so 192.168.10.1, and it's on a /24, so just 255.255.0. Enter. Okay. And then we will exit out of that one step back, and we'll go to interface VLAN 20, and brought that up. And basically what's that saying here is just it's bringing that interface up. We change the state to up. So it's connected, and then we can add the IP address. And this is for 20, so 192.168.20.1. 20.1, 255.255.255.0. Alright, and we'll go to the next one. Interface VLAN 30. Brought it up. Good. IP address 192.168.30.1, 255.255.255.0 /24 network. And that should be good. Let's hit end. Alright, so the show VLAN, that'll be the same thing we saw before. But now, if we do a show IP interface, let's try brief. And here you'll see all these are up because we connected these all to VLANs, the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. And then if we show some more, now we'll see where VLAN 10 has an IP address, VLAN 20 has that gateway IP address, and VLAN 30 has that IP address. Let's see. Show IP route doesn't have anything. I'll get back to that because basically you have to enable IP routing on this, but I'll come back to that in a second when I do that. Actually, we'll do that now. Configure terminal. Oops. Yep. And basically we just have to enable IP routing on this layer 3 switch. And that should be good. That's all we should have to do. Hit N. And now let's see if now that comes up. So now you got your direct connections right there for the IP routing. So we enabled routing on the. You have to enable routing on a layer 3 switch because it's not a true router. Okay, so now in that switch there, now I should be able to communicate between those 3 VLANs. So obviously we're in the switch. So I'm going to just ping in any of the end devices. Let's see, 10.1. We're good there. Ping 20.1. Good. So our switch can ping any of these end devices. Now let's go into one of the hosts here. And let's see if we can ping. We know we can ping within our own VLAN. So let's PC1, we'll try to ping to PC0 because they're both on the same VLAN. 10.3. And obviously that's fine. But now we're going to try to ping a different VLAN, device on a different VLAN. So we're going to ping 192.168. Let's go with 20.2. See if that works. Okay. So basically we can ping from VLAN 10 to VLAN 20 now. So these end devices do communicate. And we'll just test the other one. 168.30.2. Okay. So we're good there. So just in this network alone, this 100.0 network, we have these 3 VLANs, and we can communicate between any of these 3 VLANs through this switch 1. So we can take any of these end devices, so your sales can communicate with marketing or estimating. Alright, so now we'll go through, we're basically going to do all those same steps again over here to set up VLAN 40 and 50 on this network. So I'm going to command prompt here, enable. And first we just create the VLANs. So we have a VLAN 40. Oops, sorry, my bad. First you got to get into the global configuration mode by configure terminal. Now let's do VLAN 40. We're going to name let's go accounting. And then we'll exit out of there. We'll create another VLAN. This is VLAN 50. and we'll name this one HR. Now if you want to double check, you can always, show VLAN, see that there. Yep, you got 40 and 50, they're both there. Now we'll try to configure the interfaces of this switch. So 40 was going to be accounting, so that's 1 and 2. Let's try this. We'll do the range again here. Configure terminal. Let's go with interface range, the fast Ethernet 01 and 02, so 01/2. Good. And then we have to do switch port mode access. And this is basically what I'm doing here, is creating an SVI, which is like a switch virtual interface, is what this is doing. So that way you can communicate, that way it makes the VLANs, makes your switch use a routing to get to separate VLANs, because you can't get to a separate VLAN without routing, because it's got a separate subnet. So switch port mode access, switch port access VLAN, this is 40. We'll exit, go back one step, and then we'll do the same thing, range, interface range, FA, we did 1 and 2, so this will be 0/3 to 4. Switch port mode access, switch port access VLAN 50. And I think I spelled switch port wrong. Right there. Okay. And so now we go back and do show VLAN. Now you can see that accounting, VLAN 40, interface 1 and 2, 50 HR, 3 and 4. Interfaces 3 and 4. Sorry, I need my glasses, I'm not seeing so well. Alright, so once those are set, then we gotta configure the IP address for the gateway, which we already got the devices configured. So we do this, we got to create the gateway on the switch like we did before, just the actual VLAN interface. So we'll go in here, configure terminal, configure terminal, and we are going to go to the interface, VLAN 40. Now we brought that interface up, so we can add the IP address 192.168.40.1, and that's a /24 network. Alright, exit. So now we'll go back into interface, VLAN 50, brought that interface up. Now we can add the IP address, .50.1, 255.255.255.0, because it's a /24. All these networks are /24, so that's going to be the subnet mask on all of them. Okay, let's go to end. Show IP interface brief. Oops. Alright, so you can see 1, 2, 3, and 4 are up where we assign those interfaces to the VLANs, and then down here at the bottom we have the IP addresses, the default gateway for 40 and 50. Now we can do configure terminal. We can enable the IP routing. We can do show IP route. You can see we got our connections there. Now let's go back. Let's go in and do this last. Actually, let's test this real quick. Let's see if we can ping these in devices. Let's go with 40.2. Success rate. Alright. Let's see if we can ping 50.2. Good. Now we'll just see if we can ping from end device to end device real quick, just to test before we go any farther into it. Ping 192.168.50.2. Alright, we are pinging from VLAN 40 to 50. And just see if we can get both of them. Oh, there we go. Okay. Alright. We are good. So with that SVI set up in this switch with these excuse me, switch virtual interfaces, we can use this layer 3 switch as a router to go to this other VLAN. Now we're going to set up this last VLAN over here, VLAN 60 on this final network. And after that, we will use an OSPF to route from this whole network to this whole network. So we'll set up this one real quick. So let's enable configure terminal. And then we're just doing one VLAN on this one, so it's just VLAN 60. We'll name this one design. Exit out of there. And let's go to interface range. FA01 to 2. So basically we're configuring both of these, this interface 1 and this interface as Ethernet 1 and 2. We're just basically configuring these at the same time instead of having to do it twice, especially if you had like 10 different hosts on this, you could do it all at once. So it's switch port mode access, and then switch port access VLAN 60. Alright, so we can do a show VLAN, and you can see we have VLAN 60, name design, and it's on port 1 and port 2, so it has 2 different hosts there. Okay. Now we'll go into giving it the default gateway on the switch. So configure terminal, interface VLAN 60. So we brought that interface up, and we'll give it an IP address of 192.168.60.1. subnet mask 255.255.255.0 and so you can check show IP interface brief. So we got the first two fast Ethernets up, and let's show more. And you have VLAN 60 at this default gateway right there. We'll configure terminal and we will just enable IP routing. You can show your IP routes. Oops. Go back a step. Show IP route. There you go. You got a direct connection there. So it's showing that. So now, so what we have here is anything in network 1 can communicate with each other. Anything in network 2 can communicate with each other. And anything in network 3 can communicate. We can do a test of this one if you just want to make sure. Ping 192.168.60.2. Good. And let's do 60.3. So we know that switch is pinging to its end devices in VLAN 60. Those are all good. But what we can't do is we can't communicate these devices over to these devices. Any of these can't find this switch or anything. I'm going to go in here real quick just so I name these switches so I don't get confused when I'm going back through them. Change the host name. SW2, and then we'll change this into SW0. Okay. So now what we got to do is we basically got to turn these layer 3 switches into routers. So they'll be able to route traffic from here to here across these 3 networks, which is 192.168.100, 192.168.101, and 192.168.102. So to do that, we're going to do an OSPF, like open shortest paths first, routing. And to be able to give these gigabit Ethernet ports an IP address, we will have to change that switch port to change into a router. I'll explain it as I do this here. So we enable it, configure terminal. So if you go into the interface, 0.1, and right now I'm just going to do this to see what it does. If you would give this an IP address of 192.168.100.1, 255.255.255.255.0. Let's see what it does. It's going to give you, it's not valid. It won't take an IP address in that because it's a switch. So what you got to do is take this, when you're in this interface, we're going to go no switch port. That way it knows it's not a switch port, where it's actually like a router interface. So it brings that up. Now we're going to give it the IP address 192.168.100.1, 255.255.255.0, and now it took that so now it accepted that IP address. And then we're actually gonna, it's hard to see, but this is the gigabit Ethernet interface 02. We're gonna do the same thing with that one and give it this default gateway, because you can see here I have 102.1, 102.2 is what I'm naming them. Those are my notes right there. They're hard to see, I know. But so we're gonna exit out of here. And go to interface gigabit 0/2, and we're going to call it no switch port. Brings that up. Give it an IP address 192.168.102.1, 255.255.255.0. Alright. So we gave that an interface, or gave that an IP address. So what we'll show here, let me just do a show, I don't know if this will change, show IP route. So you can see now it added this 100 and 102 network to that. You can also do a show run. You can see we got all the VLAN 10, VLAN 10, 20, 30, and then we come all the way down here, and we got no switch port. There's the gateway, and then down here we got no switch port, and there's a gateway on the other one here. And then you can also see the gateway for the interface for VLAN 10, VLAN 20, VLAN 30 that we did earlier. And those are all the default gateways there. Okay, so we can do that to all the switches, and then I'll come back and do the OSPF once I get all that done. So we'll do that real quick. So we'll come over to this switch. I'm going to do the same thing. Let me see if I can move these a little bit so you can see them. Alright, so we need the interface 0/gigabit 0/1. We're in it. We're going to say no switch port. Brings that up. Give it an IP address, and that one is, this is 01, so that one is the 100.2. Okay. Exit. Now we'll go into the other interface, which is the gigabit 02. We'll do no switch port. Brings that up. We'll give it an IP address. Oh, this is the 101.1, so 192.168.101.1.0. And let's do a show IP interface brief on this one. And here we are right here, these gigabit Ethernets I just set up with the 100.2. It's showing up. And the gigabit Ethernet 02 is the 101.1, and they're both up. So that switch is configured. And then we'll go into this one, switch 0, and we'll do the same thing. We'll go into interface. We do gigabit 0/1. Now that we're in there, no switch port, brings that up. Give it an IP address, 192.168. This is 101.2.0. Exit out of there. Go into the other interface, which is gigabit 0/2. No switch port. Give it an IP address. Oh, it's a 102.2, so it's 168.102.2. That's 0. Alright. I'm just going to do a show IP internet brief. And you'll see the gigabit right there with the default gateways that we just did in their button. They're all up. So now that those are in that now, so now we have default gateways going across all of these. So to enable the OSPF, the dynamic routing with this, we'll go back into switch 1. We'll go configure terminal. We will go OSPF router 1. That's the wrong router. It's router OSPF 1. Sorry. Now it goes into there. Now I'm going to give this a router ID of 1.1.1.1. That just gives you router ID. So you don't have to do that. It'll grab the, I believe, the lowest. I can't remember if it's the lowest or highest IP address that's available in your network. It'll grab that. If you don't give it an ID, it'll just grab one. But I'll give it an ID. And then to make this work, we got to do network. And since all these three networks start with the 192.168, we're going to change that to a /16 just to make it easier so you don't got to type as many. So we'll just go 192.168.0.0. Now you got to do a wildcard mask. Which is kind of opposite of the subnet mask. So this would be 0.0.255.255. So basically a /16 would be 255.255.0.0. So we're just inverting that for the wildcard mask, and that's going to be an area 0. Okay, so now we're going to end here. Let's just do a show OSPF. No. IP OSPF. There you go. And here it shows the router ID. If you want to do a show IP route, since I've only done one, it's not popping up yet. Since I've only did one OSPF, you won't see it in here yet. It's got to have a neighbor to connect, so we'll do another one. But you can do this OSPF database, and it just shows that one. So we'll go to the next one. And we're going to do the same thing. Configure terminal. Do router OSPF 1. We'll give it a router ID. We'll do this one 2.2.2. And we'll do the same network of 192.168.0.0. And the reason I'm doing that, it's kind of like a summarized mask. That way I don't have to tell it to go to .100 and .102 or vice versa. I don't have to just pick which one. This one wouldn't be bad actually because it's only 3. You only have to pick one, but that's just a summarized version. It'll help in the long run if you have more switches and more routers to go through. And this is the wildcard mask, and it is an area of 0. It's always the area of 0 because it's all one area. This is just one area OSPF. They do multi-area ones, but this, we don't need that for this right now. Right now everything's going to be in area 0. Alright, now that I got that, let's end. Alright, so now, this is what I was waiting to see. So this right here, now that I've done 2, you'll see this OSPF process 1.1.1 on get it went from loading to full. So that basically means that when it's down, it's not sending like any hello packets. But then when you get a neighbor, all of a sudden it's up. So now it can communicate because it knows there's another one up that it can send packets. And now when it's loaded, it's full now. So we can show this by doing a show OSPF. You can see the 2.2.2. Let's see in the database. Now you can see 2.2.2 and 1.1.1 in the database. You can also show neighbor, and it's, since I'm in the 2.2.2 switch here, it's showing my neighbor is over here. So we know we got that loaded to full, and then we can just do it one more time here and we should be all set. Configure terminal. Let's go router OSPF 1. We'll just give this one a router ID of 3.3.3. We're going to use that same network 192.168.0.0. Wildcard mask for the /16, and this is also going to be area 0. Okay, end. Now you might see this one go loading to full. Yep, there it goes again. So now you can see that again. The 2.2.2 gigabit loading to full, 1.1.1 loading to full, because it has 2 neighbors, so it went to both. So you can see that, we can do a show OSPF, and you can see the 3.3.3 ID right here. You can show the database. So now you can see all 3 of them, and it's going across all these networks. You can see the 100.1, the 101.1, and the 102.1. Going through all those. And then if you want to see, you can also check neighbor, and you can see the neighbor on this one. You have a 2.2.2, which is over here, and a 1.1.1, which is there. So now you could actually do a show IP route. then you can see all these OSPF routes that popped up right there. It's got to the 10.0, the 20.0, the 30.0, the 40.0, the 50.0, the 60, and the 100.0, because it shows direct connections and then also the OSPF that aren't directly connected to it. So from there, you should be able to ping any end device in any other VLAN. Made it through. Awesome. So that's that. If you want, we'll just double check. Let's double check VLAN 10 to make sure we can get the device on VLAN 60. We'll ping 192.168.60.2, which is this PC 10 right down here. And we're going to ping that from PC 1, which is right there. And we're good. We can also ping 192.168. We can ping anything over on the 30 VLAN. We can ping to the 40 VLAN. And we can even ping inside our own network here. Like we already tested this before. You don't read the OPF, has nothing to do with this one, the OSPF. But you can 20.2. Okay, so thanks for watching. That's it. That's an example of network using an OSPF dynamic routing with an Inter-VLAN routing when you have multiple networks with multiple VLANs on each network. Stay tuned. I'll have some more videos going through these as we find different ways to do it. I might do one of these again similar to this, but I might do it with a static route next. But stay tuned. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe.